ourselves started. Hello there. I'm EnviroBoy. This is my channel. Gonna do some writing, and I did my camera a little differently because my cat has been super snuggly, and I know everyone in the world loves to see a cute cat. So her head's ducking down right now. Look at all the hair she's leaving behind. Oh yeah, now she's gonna like duck down and try to hide underneath the the desk. Why don't you look up when suddenly it would be worth something? Right, you can kind of see her. Oh, there she is. There's my kitty. There's my little one-eyed cretin. She decided to be sociable today as opposed to hiding off screen, so I figured I would let her share the limelight for me, or with me, for a little while. I know, honey. Such a sweetheart. We're both enjoying the new electric blanket that I currently have on my lap. So yep, this is my kitty. She's gonna be my my co-writer, my editor-in-chief today, I suppose, until she gets bored. I know, dear. She likes to, hey, how's it going? Sit around. She likes to tuck her head into my hand. I know, little sweetheart. She's a dear little spaz. She's being very snuggly right now, which is kind of unfair, because it's gonna make everyone think that she's just the sweetest, most well-behaved thing in the world, and that's not really fair, because this little turd bucket will wake me up at like 3 in the morning most days for her morning meal, and then she will also, once we hit probably around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, about 2 hours before she usually gets dinner, she will start doing everything she can to bother me, including scratching the furniture and eating my plants to let me know that she is dissatisfied with her current situation. So, but she's being a sweetheart right now, so I figured we'd let her get a couple of her 15 minutes. I know, hi dear. She's a sweetheart. Your dogs sound wonderfully well behaved. I don't know if it's necessarily a cat or a dog thing. I think it's just animals, whether or not they're well behaved or butt heads, and this one definitely teeters towards butthead when it comes to meals. I know. She's bouncing between wanting very focused scritches and attention and being very interested in the birds outside. So that's why you'll suddenly see her look very interested off to the side of the screen with her one eye. I know, dear. I know, darling. You're getting your hair all over my nice new black shirt. Isn't that wonderful? I don't know why I chose a cat whose base color is white. I know exactly why, because she's adorable. Who am I kidding? I never stood a chance. With her one little eye. You kidding me? Come on now. Are you gonna snuggle down and just hide? Gosh, you were shedding like nobody's business. I just brushed you this morning. What's the deal? Oh my gosh, so much cat hair everywhere. So much cat. I should have gotten a long hair. Why did I get a short hair like you? Yeah. No. Yeah. There's the hair is what it is. What you can do about the hair is you can brush them regularly to make sure they don't like consume it and then yak it up. As far as a cat goes, you can make sure that we don't have hairballs. And then the other option is the other thing is lots of those sticky tape lint rollers, so that later on I can't quite reach it now without upsetting her. I've got the lint roller right up on my. No, there's no way I'm gonna be able to reach that without upsetting her. So yeah, we used one of those. My ma used to have this thing. It was brilliant. I need to get one. She had one. It wasn't the sticky tape, but it was one of those things where it's like almost a pad of velvet on a handle, like a brush, but it was like, rather than a brush, it was just like a pad of like velvet, and you would rub it, and it would use just like the slight static to collect up hair and lint and stuff. So you never had to buy another one. You just picked the crap off, and then when you needed to do it again, you just rubbed it on your shirt, and after a few rubs, it builds up the static cling on like the velveteen type of patch that was on the handle, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. You like the sticky ones better? I mean, like, the sticky ones, I feel like the sticky ones are a bit more immediate and instant. But, like, golly, when you got an animal, you got to keep buying them. They get expensive. Hold on, she ducked down. I wonder if I can get her back on screen a little bit better. Hold on. Yeah, a little bit better. You guys could just stare at my wonderful chest. Oh, boy. I don't know. I won't. I'll stop fussing with the camera a little bit. I know my the wrong kind of hair. It's not exactly a manly hairy chest, but it's a chest nonetheless. Kitty, just like say hi. Psst, psst. Wait, psst, psst. Look over here. No, not at me. I know, honey. You're a little sweetheart. I know. Oh my gosh. There we go. There she is. I know. You're quite charismatic when you want to be. You're a very lovely cat, but you just make it as difficult as possible. Whenever I try to like take pictures, that's immediately when she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop looking photogenic. I'm gonna spaz out and start licking my own beehole or something." Like it's her habit. It's like she knows. I know. You just hang out down there. You just hang out down there. We'll leave the kitty up. I know. Kitty's. I mean, honestly, it was kind of probably a bad move for me to put her on, because now no one is ever going to be satisfied just seeing me on the screen, because everyone knows cats are better than people. Hold on, let me see if I can get the camera down a little bit more here. Let me fuss with. There we go. She'll be our lead writer today, and when she decides she's tired of this and wants to leave, then you guys can look at my stupid face, and I'll have to readjust the cameras, and it'll be wonderful. Because I didn't just move the part of the screen that the camera is showing. Everyone loves her. She's a sweetheart, and she only has one eye, so she automatically wins those sympathy points. And she is very good at abusing those sympathy points to make people feel bad for her and want to give her extra love and attention. So she knows what she's about. Oh my gosh, there's so much cat hair all over me. Okay, anyway, we've spent like a good 5 minutes on my cat alone. So we'll let her be here. We'll let her sit on camera because she's obviously the popular one. Between the two of us, she's obviously the more attractive and photogenic. I can comfortably admit that. I know my role. But let's get some writing. Let's actually do some writing. Not that I mean I feel like everyone in the world would be totally content for this to just be a look at my adorable cat stream. I mean, for crying out loud, like the Super Bowl, one of the second most watched things on Super Bowl night is like the Puppy Bowl on YouTube, where it's literally just a room full of dogs, and everyone watches that like nobody's business. But all right, let's bring it here. We'll let Kitty be. All right, you can also see my hands. This is where my career as a hand model begins. Right? We can display the cat, right? This is actually fun. This is a nice change of pace. I like this. I can make all kinds of weird faces you guys won't even know. See, you didn't even know. He didn't even know. Hey, yes, Matt, thanks for the follow. I see already. Look at, see, I need to put you on screen more often. Like, this needs to be a cat stream all the time. That's the fastest I've ever gotten. That's the fastest I've ever gotten a new follower on a stream. This is great. This is absolutely great. All right. Anyway, maybe we can do an actual stream. I know, darling. I know. You just sit there and be cute. I'll do all the hard work. All you got to do is sit there and nap. You just got to sit there and nap. It's of course the cat work. The cat always works. It's always good to have a cat. I feel like you can't lose when you put a cat on stream, because even if the cat's like a real jerk. Look at that, two followers in like the first 5 minutes. Never again am I putting my face on stream. It is always going to just be my cat. This is beautiful. So many followers. Thank you to Avatar Sloth and the numbers in a row. I appreciate that as well. This is absurd. This is the most ridiculous thing in the world. It's the most worthless 10 minutes of stream I've ever done, and it's like immediately the most popular. I love it. Okay. Okay, so we can do some actual world building here. So we've been working on. I pulled up. We've got our world map. We've been working on a campaign, a D&D campaign. I mean, Sloth. It doesn't. I wouldn't say it counts as bias because like everyone agrees. Everyone in the world agrees. The cat is superior. Just look at her. Look at her. She's a little jerk who wakes me up at 3 a.m. and yet somehow everyone loves her, and I pay for her food and I scoop her poop out of a sandbox, and like it's just cats lived charmed lives, and it shows that their charisma is far better than mine because am I allowed to just like vomit on the carpet and someone just like the worst I get is someone rolling their eyes and then cleaning it up? No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Oh boy. Hazmat, I appreciate you saying that. Although, come on, we all know it was the cat. We all know it was the cat. Like 100% the cat. We all know. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not upset about it. I'm not upset about it. I know my place. I know my place in the hierarchy. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we've been working on a campaign. For the 5. We're designing it for 5e rule system, but I kind of discussed it before. The thing about the way I try to design my campaigns is the rule system kind of gets layered on top. You can take the rules out and really do just about any game so long as the setting is right. So so we're doing like a 5e campaign and we're designing it for D&D 5e, but I mean you could do Pathfinder, you could if you've got your own fate type system or something like that you want to do. Oh, I know, dear. Oh, we're gonna really show the belly. We're gonna get real hammy about it, aren't we? Gonna milk that bit of fame that you got going on now. But yeah, so we've been we've been working on that campaign. The Frost Marsh is an interesting idea down here. I've done a few things with it. The idea of it being like a swamp, but it's like all icy and frozen. It's definitely an interesting area, and I might maybe once we're done with this campaign, I might do something down there because it's a cool area, and I never like I've always got a lot of ideas for it, but I don't spend a whole lot of time actually like mapping stuff out for it. But we've been working on a campaign within this world, and this is my homebrew world here. And the campaign that we're presently working on is taking place up over here in this hex right here. And I chose this hex. I chose this hex particularly because of the diversity of environments that it has in here. I mean, we got forest, we got plains, and we got mountains, the way it's set up. So that gave us a whole lot of stuff to work with, and so I thought that would be kind of a fun way to have a cool, like an exciting, diverse set of stuff going on in a single campaign. I thought that would be good. So that's why we chose that hex. And so we can pull up here. This is the map of the area. This is the closer map of the area. So the basic premise of this campaign is there are currently efforts being made to build a trade route from the city that's up here to the city that's kind of down here further, in order to shorten trade times through this world, the wilds as I call it, which is just it's a very dangerous world that my homebrew has. Every once in a while I'll go kind of into the deeper details of the lore, but I just did that yesterday, so I'm gonna try and keep it a bit briefer today. Especially since we wasted so much time on this fuzzy little nightmare. The campaign, the basic premise is players are part of a larger effort to map out and develop a trade route that can be used. But in doing so, they've made their way into territory that's covered by that's sort of looked over by a dragon, and the dragon's not super thrilled about humanoid activity in this area. They make him humanoid. Get it, like annoyed, but like it's humans that annoy him. So it's like, oh man, it's always great. It's always great when you try to be funny, and it's even better when you explain the joke. So pro tip for all of you guys out there. That one's for free. So stupid. Okay, so they're trying to make this trade route. Dragon's all like, I don't like that. And the people are all like, time for the punishment. Put a pun to my head and pull the trigger. And so the humans are like, oh, well, what if we cut a deal with you? And the dragon's all like, okay, there's this one ancient hall. It's called the Hall of Wisdom, this ancient hall. It's been locked and magically sealed. I haven't been able to get in there, but I really want to get in there. It's in my turf. I want to know what's going on in there. So if you can find the keys and get me access to this Hall of Wisdom, then I'll let you build your trade route. I won't explicitly guard it, but I mean, just a dragon kind of being present there, sort of by virtue of existing, sort of helps guard it. So that's nice. And so they cut a deal, and it becomes the player's job to start looking for and obtaining these keys. I'm noticing I keep looking at the camera because I've developed the good habit of trying to make eye contact with you guys, but the camera isn't on my face. It's on this hairy little lump that you can't even see where her head is now. But so players are trying to find these keys. From what we've written so far in our campaign, they will have found the first key, which is up in here in the mountains, in our giant territory, the parts of the mountains that are sort of overseen by different giant tribes. And so they've gotten that key and gone back and done further research. And their next lead brought them down here to the abandoned dwarven city of Kog'Deral. So they travel down there, make it through some trials and tribulations through the underground mountain tunnels to get there. But then they get there and they find that, it's not actually abandoned like we thought it was. It's now owned by the Duergar. Stuff happens with the Duergar. They may or may not be friends with the Duergar. Either way, they get their next clue, and this takes us to where what we're working on actively right now. The next clue is that the second key of the 4 that they're looking for, was possessed by the dwarves and probably is hidden within their vaults, their vaults of like gold and jewels and all of their wealth that they hid and locked up before the dwarves fled the city during the unhinging, which is what turned the world into the dangerous place that it is nowadays. So there's these vaults. Players are trying to get into it. Like I say, whether or not they're friends with the Duergar, they learn that the Duergar have been trying for years and years to get access to these vaults and just have not been able to, both because of the locks and safety measures that the dwarves put on it, as well as just the nasty monsters and stuff that inhabit and live underneath all of these, underneath the mountains in these tunnels and everything. So players are basically at this point tasked with being the ones to navigate this area and find what's in the vaults. They may have cut a deal with the Duergar so that they are going to bring stuff back to the Duergar. Maybe not. Maybe they're trying to sneak their way through there. It's largely inconsequential because in the end, at the end of the day, the key is in the vault. Players got to go in there and they got to get it. So that's what we're working on now. That's where we kind of left off. We're just about finished. I will definitely finish it today. We've been going through the process of sort of figuring out the host of monsters that are going to exist in this dungeon. The way I'm organizing this dungeon is there are basically going to be 5 sets of 10 rooms. I'll put the quotes down here so you guys can see me doing it. I use kind of like floors and rooms loosely as an organizational conceptual thing, but ultimately it can be pretty loose. The important part is there's sort of like 10 trials of sorts that players will go through for each set of rooms, and there's going to be 5 of those. So this is a fairly sizable dungeon, and I always find it's helpful to sort of predetermine what monsters are going to be in each section. So that way, once we're to the point where we're adding sort of the details to the maps and stuff like that, we don't have to sit there and puzzle over too hard about like, okay, what monsters are going to fit well in here, what monsters are, an easy or a difficult battle, depending on what we're looking for and all that kind of stuff. If we know what monsters we're going to have, we kind of already know what tools are at our disposal as far as difficulty goes. And as far as theme and atmosphere goes as well, we've got a lot of information for that. We've kind of stuck with like a spider / like weird humanoid monster type of theme for the monsters under here. So we kind of already have our thematic elements mapped out and everything. The only monsters we have left to find, the one thing that kind of breaks the pattern that we've been working on so far, is the final part of this dungeon will be our players, once they obtain the key, something's going to happen. I haven't exactly decided what it's going to be, but something's going to happen that's going to cause the dungeon to either the dungeon, the vaults to either flood or have like the ceiling and stuff collapse, so that they can't get back out the way they came and instead have to find a different way out, which is going to lead them to, let me pull up our map again here, which is going to leave them above ground over in this area, which is sort of like a valley surrounded by these mountains. And so they're going to have to get through there, and it's going to drastically change the feel and the style of this thing, because suddenly it goes from being underground to being above ground in this weird, dense, untouched forest. And so I'm hoping that can be sort of like a fun twist to make this a fun bit of variety for players. It's more of a cold region. Not really. So if we look at we can look at our map actually and just kind of give ourselves a bit of insight about that. So we're kind of working on like if this is our map, right, our world map. We're up here in this portion of the world map here. And so if we're looking just kind of longitudinally, we can see that it's closer to the equator than it is to either pole. And with our sort of plains, these Golden Wind plains here are very sort of like Serengeti, African plains type of environment. So over here it's pretty warm, and then up here is where we start getting into more northern temperate type of zones, right? So we've got a forest here, and the images are all pine trees, but for me, this is an easy area to conceptualize, because I imagine this being a lot like where I live presently, where there's, it's northern. We get a lot of seasons. We have the potential to get a lot of cold and snow in the winter, but in the summers it can still get pretty warm. So it's more of like a deciduous forest type of environment here, turning into colder, more coniferous forests, like right if here. So like this city of Fosvik up here, it's colder, but like they still have summer months and stuff like that. So if we're talking in the mountains around here and in this area, I would say this area with the mountains kind of serving as like a buffer zone between these two environments. I would say in here, like when we're actually in the center of things, it's going to be a bit colder and a bit more seasonal than Romania and Germany. That I feel like that's pretty accurate. Granted, I don't have any firsthand experience, but if my geography from way back in the day when I was still in school, which, boy oh boy, today and every day feels like that was further and further away. Yeah, I would think that's a reasonable comparison, kind of what we're looking for. So it's like in the mountains here, like upon the mountain peaks, certainly it would be very chilly. There'd be a lot of snow-capped peaks and stuff there. It's north enough that we would get that. In this valley down here, I would say the valley is still going to be largely elevated, especially compared to out here. So I would say that it would make it would make a lot of sense for it to be more akin to the forest environment up here than the Golden Plains down there. Play The Witcher 3 a long time ago, but yes, I feel like that environment isn't too far off. Like that kind of European medieval style environment, like everyone just thinks of, like when you think of Lord of the Rings or whatever, right? Where you've got that sort of that's about on par. This is a very classic medieval knights and castles, type of environment. With this airing more towards, your Serengeti, your deserts and stuff like that. The real warm climates happen further west on this map than this region that we're looking at right now. How you doing, kitty? Are you gonna sit there and ham it up? Look at everyone can see your beautiful single eye with that angle. Well, kind of. I don't know. Not really, I guess, but But yeah, that's about where it is in general. Probably a bit colder in this area. Like I say, because this valley, though it's a valley by comparison to the mountains, will still be more elevated. But like we've got a lake here. Like it's a lake that in the summer it would be water, but in the winter it would freeze over. You could do some good ice skating and stuff on there. You could get a nice pickup hockey game going on there. Just something that used to happen a lot. Where I grew up. I grew up across the street from a pond that would always freeze over in the winters, and we would always do pickup hockey games. Those were fun. Those were good days. Those are good times, man. But yeah, that's kind of the environment we're looking at. For our final boss, the most challenging critter that we have here is a giant ape, and largely that was just there because I needed something that was a challenge rating of about 7, and so I was like, and the giant ape was the only just like normal beast that was that challenge rating. So I was like, sure, why not? There's a giant gorilla that lives in this valley and is really mad at people going into its territory. Why not? Why not? So we went with a giant ape, and now we just gotta kind of come up with some where is it? This right here. We need to come up with just some like lackeys for our ape friend. Are you using the handrest as a pillow there, dear? This cat is so amazing. I love her to bits. Ice mountains could be mistaken for a yeti. I'm not ready to veto the idea of it being like an albino yeti type of monkey situation yet. My original thought had for it to just be sort of like a normal standard animal, just because there are so many monsters underground that they've been facing. But yeah, I hadn't thought about it super deeply yet. There's still plenty of time to edit and anchor that one in. So there's a lot of things we could do. Chimps and baboons are vicious. They definitely are. Leaning more towards the chimp side of things. But yeah, I don't know. Corrupted avatar of Larue. I possibly could go through as a normal. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I guess I wouldn't immediately veto that. Because like as things go, sometimes you edit it. I think what's gonna like help hammer it down is figure out exactly what other beasts will be at the disposal based on the challenge ratings that I need. And so what I want to do is I want to try and see what other things are at our disposal, and we'll kind of work from there. Giant ape. Because the thing is for me is I like adding a little bit of variety, and the kind of the fun irony about D&D is there's so much time, there are so many enemies, and there's so much time spent on these weird, mythical, magical, horrible things that it actually kind of ends up being a unique thing for players to face something that just is boring and not unique at all, right? So something that's just like, yep, no, it's just a straight up gorilla. It's just a chimpanzee or whatever like that. Like that's just like a particularly mean one. That's what ends up being unique within the scope of the game. So I'm not really against it, and I kind of like the idea of mixing up, especially after we've had a dungeon where they're facing like Kruthiks and giant spiders and all kinds of big, horrible, nasty, monstrosity, aberration type creatures, and then they just finish off the dungeon with just like, oh yeah, there's just like a bunch of monkeys, and maybe there's like a pack of wolves or something in this forest, and it's like those are the challenges you have to deal with. What are you doing? This cat. You're cracking me up right now. What are you doing? They can't be comfortable. That can't be comfortable. You're so stretched out and you're not even laying down properly. And now you're like, there's no way you're not cranking your neck. Yeah, that's what I thought. Little weirdo. How? Smack me in the face with their tail now. I know, darling. I know, you're a good kitty. You're a real good kitty. You're a little unaware of your limbs sometimes. You look like you want to go check out the birds. Do you want to go? You're allowed to. She's like, no, I wanna stay here with the warmth, but I also want to look at the birds. Okay, I need my armrest back now. Thank you. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different apes. We've got our breakdown. I need a challenge rating 4, 2, and 1. So we'll just look and see. I like to window shop because I don't want it to only be apes. I want a few other things too. So it'll come together. I'm not stressing about it. We'll just do some window shopping of monsters, and we'll find what we need. We always do. To blatantly rip off Sekiro's ape boss fight. I mean, We could do that. We could do that. I mean, it's a fantasy game. We could do whatever we want. Within my world, it is canon. It's been established in some of my games because I have, if I'm DMing a game within my world and something is made canon within one of those games, it stays canon throughout all the others. So it is an existing canon thing that Smokey the Bear does exist in my world as an all-powerful magical deity who will show up and beat your ass if you don't put out your campfires. It's happened before. So the world's our oyster, but I don't have anything set in stone yet. I'm still like I say, I'm in the window shopping phase here. Well, let's just take a look at our beasties. I know I want it to stay just regular beasts. I love magical monsters, but we've still got a lot of campaign left to get a lot of really cool magical things going on. I really want to stick with the concept of this just being just normal creatures that are here. Giants. What is this? Giant subterranean lizard. Could do that. Stegosaurus. Oh, we could go full Jurassic Park on it. Elephants. Not a whole lot going on there. Challenge rating 4. I wonder if we can just let's take a look at. Oh, you know what we could do? It's gonna be a forest. We could throw some plants in there too. Spore Servant. What's this guy? Oh, I don't have that one yet. I don't know. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. That would be really cool. But let's see here. What else we got here? Kelpie, Stegosaurus. Man, not. Oh, are you gonna take off? Okay. Well, now it's just gonna be awkward because now you guys are just staring at my crotch. All right, hold on a second. let me get my cameras adjusted back here. Hold on. Sorry guys, the cat show is over. It's probably time for you to unfollow and get out of here now. It's all downhill from here. Hold on, let me adjust the cameras. This is the face focused one. Here we go. There we go. She may be back. She may come back, but the truth of the matter is now you're stuck with my ugly mug. So you know, there we go. There we are. So let's see. We could go with snakes. Snakes would be a Spore Servant. Honestly, wouldn't be the worst. I don't know though. That again, that kind of departs and goes on to the real magical stuff. Let's see what else you guys say. Moose is CR3. Yeah, we could do CR3. The hard part about having too many things. So okay. So the reason maybe I'll step back a second here and just explain for the benefit of people. The challenge ratings that I've chosen are very much based on the size of battles I like to offer to my players. Namely, if I can do fewer than 10 monsters or 10 creatures that I have to control per battle. One, it's for a timing thing, and two, it's for an action economy situation. Even if they're CR0, if you have to go against 30 creatures, if they all do 4 damage a pop per turn, right, and you've got 30 of them, that'll kill 2 or 3 people in a single round, right? So I have the challenge ratings based on the understanding that this dungeon is made for level 5 players, a group of 5 level 5 players, knowing that I want them to, by the end of this dungeon, be level 6, knowing roughly how many battles I want to put within this dungeon, within each section of this dungeon, where I want the tough battles to be versus the easy battles to be. There's a whole long process that I go through, and I should really, I've been intending to do this, and I will, maybe I can do this when I actually have some time off. I've got some time off from my day job coming up over the holidays, and I'll actually do this. I want to make a video of how I do it. So that's not to say that I'm inflexible about things, but there's a reason I'm looking for a challenge rating of 4, right? Because just the way I structure my battles in the way that is easy enough for me to run as a DM and is also a level of challenge and interest that my players enjoy. Hold on, I'll just adjust my camera a little bit more here. That's what I look for. So we can be flexible and start going through some of these other challenge ratings, and we might have to. But my first choice is always to try and stick within the challenge rating that I'm looking for, just because that is that tends to be the most reliable starting point that requires the least amount of fudging of stats and stuff that I like to do. So yes, we're working in a forested area right now. One other thing that we can do. Let's see here. Well, let's take away the plants because we didn't find anything there. Something else that we could try and do. We could look at our humanoids and see maybe there's just a tribe of people or something like that live around there. Lots of people, so we could do lots of different people and stuff like that, and that would work. That would work really well. We got a lot of options for different peoples, so let's keep that in mind. And actually, let's look. Lizard King, Lizard Queen, Master Souls. Let's see here. Yeah, like a barbaric hunting party or something like that. Like, that would actually work. You could almost have, like, we could kind of do a throwback. Actually, that would be really fun if we were to do some sort of, like, group of Goliaths or something like that to serve as, like, surrogate giants or something like that live up among the mountains. That would be a functional option for us. We could do something like that. Actually, let me just even see. Are there any challenge rating 4 giants that would be sensible here? Let me take away some of these things and just see. Let's just see. Oh, wait, no. Take away the humanoid. Go over here. Give us our giants. Yeah, see, okay, so we could go with, like, Ettins and stuff like that. That, again, kind of departs from the non-magical that I'm looking for, but that is closer to the aesthetic that I'm looking for. We could do an ogre. Ogres wouldn't be too bad at all. What's that guy look like? Yeah, I don't know. An ogre would be appropriate, I would think. I mean, that's pretty standard. Straight up giant hunting the giant ape. Honestly, actually, if we're gonna do any sort of humanoid, I like that idea the best. Like a group of barbarians of some sort. Like, we could even take the ogre stats and reskin them as just being like Goliaths or something like that. And we could throw them in there like a hunting party that wants the ape, but they're barbarians. They're barbaric, like incredibly uncivilized, and prone to doing whatever it takes to survive in this particular environment. So prone to violence because of that. So that would be an interesting approach to things, and it would give players the opportunity to flex more social negotiation types of skills if they wanted to in this last part. It could open up. It just opens up the avenue for a few other things. So I actually like that idea. See, that's an idea that'll get me to be a little flexible here. So we could do that with the ogres. Let me just see something here. Do we have any? Yeah, we got lots of ogres, so we could do a lot of different types of ogres for our 2s and our 1s, and then if we go, and then hold on, let me see, our challenge rating 1 here is the other thing that we needed. Let's see here, bears, giant eagle, giant, so many giants. I got the half ogre, ice spider lion, moorbounder, old croaker, spider king, quickers, 2-headed crocodile. Zaltembra, oh, that's the giant. They don't have. Well, actually, hold on a second though. We did see we've got a couple like ogre type things. Around here, like we got half ogres and stuff that could work. So then let me see if we go challenge rating 2. Just trying to think about how we could puzzle everything in together. How we need. Because now I need another beast. I don't want the final boss. While the final boss is the giant ape, I never ever, if I can avoid it, do a final boss battle where it's just one creature. Because you can have something that's incredibly difficult. Action economy. If you have players that all get 2 or 3 actions per turn against even just a single creature, unless that thing has a bunch of legendary actions and free actions, they will just be able to death by 1,000 cuts that thing within a turn or 2, because the sheer action economy of them not being distracted by other things, not having to balance life resources against anything other than just this one creature. If they can all just lay it onto this one creature, always easier than if you have a less intimidating boss with cronies. So I need to make sure I've got some other creature that is at least that I can at least reasonably skin as being other apes that are part of this giant apes tribe or something like that. Is what I really need here. Let's see here. Yeah, we don't have. Let's see here. Cave bear, giant boar, giant search stage, elk, right, eel, hunter, ice spider, queen. Yeah, we don't explicitly have anything. Let's see here. The giant ape is definitely going to do that. Don't make no mistake. No mistake. Hey, inflatable cat. No mistake. The giant ape is going to do that, but we still need, even if it's all ranged, you need to have something. This is something that I strongly encourage every DM to think about when you're designing a battle. Do everything you can to avoid a battle where it's just a single combatant that they're going against, because it will always be easier than you expect it to be for them. Always. Every time. Every time it will be. If they can all focus all of their attacks on just one thing, it will always be easier for them. So I really want to avoid that. So I'm wondering if we can do something like, let me see where, what are the cave bear stats looking like here? Bite and claws. I mean, honestly, we could just use this. Keen smell, multi-attack, bite, claws, and just let them be capable of climbing. Honestly, we could reskin the cave bear, and it would make a passable ape option. That would really work just fine, to be perfectly honest. I think we could easily make that work. So I'm tempted to just do that. Cave bear skinned as a giant ape, or rather than a giant ape, just like a standard ape or something like that. So I think that could work really well. I think that could really be a good option. Yeah, I think that'll be the way to go. So okay, so let's go ahead and get this one put in, since we're just looking at it right now. Get that stat block, and and whenever I can, I always put the stat block just like right in there, so that way I don't have to have 8 million tabs open every time I'm trying to do something. We're gonna do cave bear skinned cave bear skinned as apes. There we go. There we go. Ape has a displaced species pet. Possibly. I don't know. I prefer the idea of it just being, honestly, I really like the idea of it just being a tribe of apes, like a bunch of apes. Because the other thing to think about too is if like, okay, so we give the ape, if we give the ape a pet, then that takes care of our our boss battle. But that doesn't give us any sort of build up to it, right? Because if it's just the ape and its pet, then we don't have the opportunity to just have smaller groups of the apes as sort of a warning or a clue to the players that, like, hey, this is some of the stuff that's here. So that's why I like to try and have a simpler version of whatever the boss is in conjunction with the boss. So I think I'm going to stick with the K-Bear, and we'll just reskin it here. I think that's what we'll do. I think that'll work really well. And I think it's also great to get something written down so I don't sit here for 3 hours and overthink it, because I'm prone to do that too. It's that sort of effect that I talk about this a lot. You want to avoid the sort of analysis paralysis problem of trying too hard to get it perfect the first time. So like you're so focused on making it perfect that you're afraid to write anything down because you get focused on all the ways that it's imperfect. So like a lot of times it's best to just say like, no, you know what, I'm making the decision, that's what we're doing. And then if you come back to it in a day and you're like, no, I'm really not satisfied with that, you can always edit it. So that's why I'm just gonna go ahead and go for it here. I'm gonna say reskinned as apes. Let's see here. Skinned as apes. Oh, it'll probably be more than 2 normal apes, honestly. It'll probably be big groups of them. We'll see when we get there. You'll see when we get there and we start mapping out our combats and stuff like that. The basic, I guess what I can do is just offer the basic Cliff Notes version. So within any given segment of rooms, I break up the amount of experience points I want to be sort of earnable within that set of rooms. And I break it down into easy, medium, hard, and then if necessary, a boss battle level of difficulty of battles within that set. So without going into the details of the map, or the math, excuse me, this particular section, this final section, there are 4 levels of difficulty of battle that players might encounter. There's easy battles that'll be worth about 900 experience points. There's medium difficulty battles that'll be worth about 1800. Hard ones will be worth about 2700, and the boss battle will be worth about 3600 experience points. Now, the way that I choose the monsters, so the boss battle, I want one of those things to be a hard battle. So like this thing alone would be a difficult battle. So then we up the ante even from that to add in some cronies and make it a really epic boss battle for the players. One of the enemies, a more difficult enemy, will be two of them would make about an easy battle or so. Right, so these guys being at 1100 apiece, that brings us up to 22, so it's a little bit above there. But that's roughly, two of them would be roughly a medium battle. The next level difficulty, so with these ones are cave bears that we're reskinning. I want about 5 of those to make a medium difficulty battle, 4 or 5. Right, so that's what those guys are. And then we have one even easier enemy that roughly 10 of them would be about a medium difficulty battle. That's how I break it down. And then we just kind of mix and match using those resources available to us as we need to, as makes sense, to fit whatever challenge of a specific room we're working on, to fit whatever atmosphere of a mood. So we're basically putting together our tool set that we will then use to put the details in the dungeon. And, you know, once we get there, you can kind of see how it all ends up piecing together. But the important thing is, I know that this works really well for the way I run my games, and I know that it's a method that my players really enjoy. It provides a challenge that they like, but that's like, it's a difficult challenge that they enjoy, but all of it is perfectly surmountable as long as they're attentive and, you know, actually trying to win the battles. So this is a system that works really well for me. The biggest grain of salt, though, when you're looking at this, because this method might not work for every group. It might not work for your style of DMing. It might not work for what your players like. So, you know, I do things my way, and I explain it my way, and I stand by it as a good way to do it, but it is far from the only way to do it. So if you've got other ideas, you know, then by all means you use those methods. But that's why I'm sticking with my route, and that's why there's only a certain amount of flexibility that I have about how I do it. Like, I don't want to be so staunch that the game and the atmosphere suffer for it. But there's a reason over nearly 10 years of DMing, the experience has shown me that this is the approach that works best for how I run my games. So that's kind of where it all comes from, because I know it can seem kind of incomprehensible and strange if you don't have the privilege of sitting in my weird scattered brain. So that's why I'm offering that experience, that explanation a little bit there. Hopefully that makes at least some sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my beehole here. Who knows? Okay, so these guys reskinned as apes. I always like to put a few different notes about how I want them to behave in battle. And the reason I do that is because whenever I end up running this campaign, because this isn't a campaign that I'm actively running right now. I'm running a different campaign for my current group that I'm DMing for, and I don't stream the writing of that campaign because my players will sometimes come in and watch my streams, and I don't want them to have anything given away from them. So this is just a campaign I'm writing for fun, so it might be months or years before I pull this out. So I like to put notes to myself about how to run creatures, one, to remind myself whenever it comes around that I'm pulling this back out and running this game, and two, because when you're in the middle of running a game, your brain runs out of RAM real quick. So the more notes that you have there, so you don't have to think of everything on the spot and instead can just read something and be like, oh yeah, that's how I got to do it. The much more relaxing and on the ball, it'll be a much more relaxing experience for you as a DM, and you'll be much more on the ball for your players. So I always like to put a few different notes about what I want to do with these creatures when we're here. So let's see here. So 2 attacks, 1 with bite and 1 with claws. Honestly, these guys are really easy. The one thing that we'll do is I'm going to put a note here. When players enter area, have these apes use keen smell as a way to try and sneak attack. It is flavored as if they detect players, they are up in the trees at the start. If they start, if they don't detect players, are scavenging on the forest floor. So, there we go. So we can just kind of give them these ideas. I'm actually going to change this to make it a bit easier to look at here. just do these things as separate bullets here. So that'll give a little bit of dynamic feel to how these monsters will behave. If we kind of give that, so that way it's not always just like, you walk into this clearing in the woods, there's monkeys on the ground. It's like they might do something a little different. I like to try and make the monsters at least a little bit intelligent, if I can. At least give them some basic animal instincts if we can. So let's see, we'll do that. Always multi-attack and target the nearest enemy. So these guys, they just kind of take the flood your enemies with attacks approach. So they don't have much tactics. They just whoever's nearby, whoever's closest, they'll go for it. The one caveat I will put there, if one player character has 3 or more already around it, new ones will move to the next closest. So they won't all just pile around one single enemy. I want to avoid that if I can, because that I think would get old pretty quick there. If it were, well, it's not that it would get old, it's just that, like, if there's like 8 of them, just like completely putting the smack down on a single player, that's going to quickly be unfun for the single player. And it also just wouldn't make much sense for the tribe of monkeys. I mean, they're coordinated and intelligent enough that they would know to sort of divvy out theirs or split up their efforts at least a little bit. So, okay, so we're going to use those guys, and then we were going to go with like the ogre approach for our other 2 enemies. So let's pull those guys up here. We need our challenge rating 4 here, and that's where we found our the ogre battering ram here. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and get our screenshot of this here. Copy that, and then we come over here, put that one right there. Oops. And so we'll just put little notes here. Deals double damage to objects and structures. That's an interesting thing. I wonder if there's a way to use that in the middle of the forest. I feel like we could probably figure something out. Let's see here. Bash and block path until the start of the ogre's next turn. Attack rolls against the ogre have disadvantage. It has advantage on attack roll to make it... It has advantage on the attack roll it makes for an opportunity attack. And that attack deals extra bludgeoning damage on a hit. Also, each enemy that tries to move out of the ogre's reach without teleporting must succeed on a strength saving throw or have its speed reduced to 0 until the start of the ogre's next turn. I like that. Let's see here. I almost want to use these guys to like run interference on whatever their other, just because of that block the path type of situation. Kind of want them to be able to like run interference and do like battlefield management. Like they'll stand in the middle of the battlefield and try to tank as many of the player characters as possible. I kind of want to see if we can just kind of use them that way. So let's see here. Oh yeah, absolutely, Cideron. I'm actually really flattered by that. If you would like to put that, if you think that'd be helpful, then by all means, go ahead and pass out the link. I'm flattered that you like my stuff enough and think it would be helpful to people. So yeah, absolutely, go ahead with that. I appreciate it. That sounds like an excellent idea. The more people we can have sort of sharing and like sharing ideas and stuff like that. The whole reason I started actually streaming my writing is the idea was to be able to, it was kind of twofold. One, it was just to give kind of a place where for a couple hours if people were interested, we could come in here and people can just crowdsource and discuss different D&D, like DMing philosophies and world building ideas and stuff like that. But the other idea too was my hope was to, by demonstrating my process and showing how it goes, it could help make DMing and world building feel more approachable to people who haven't tried it before. Because it's just like you're saying, the world does need a whole lot of the world of D&D does need more DMs. Case in point is the fact that I have been a DM for getting close to 10 years, and I have not been a player in a 5e game other than the occasional one shot. in almost all of that time. Like once you're a DM, like the curse of the forever DM totally exists. So you're absolutely right. We need more DMs, and that was why I sort of thought it would be fun to start streaming this. Is just because I was hoping that if I show my process and show that all you need is like Microsoft Word, or I use OneNote to keep things organized, but you can do it with Word. As long as you have a computer, or you don't even need a computer, as long as you have a pen and paper, you can start writing down these ideas and you can organize these things to set up games and be a DM. Like it really is such an approachable and simple thing to get into. I mean, it takes a lot of work to sort of learn the moves, so to speak, to be good at it. But I mean, heck, you don't even have to be a good DM for people to worship you these days, because there's so many people that want to try D&D, but so few people that know it well enough to run a game. So yeah, no, absolutely. If you think that this stream would be helpful to people and that they would be interested in it, then by all means get more people involved, get more people in on the discussion and stuff. I love answering the questions. I love discussing. I love explaining why I go through things, and like even if I don't end up going with other people's suggestions, I love hearing their suggestions, because it makes me, even if I don't end up taking the suggestion, it's a really good exercise for me, and it helps me out too by helping me sort of pause to think about, okay, why am I doing it my way? You know, are there different things that I could be doing differently in this scenario? Is there something I can do better? And so even if I decide, no, I want to keep doing it my way, it gets me to pause and think about that, and then I explain why I do it the way that I do it. So I think it's great. I think it would be great if we get more people interested. So by all means, thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, so with these guys, with these ogres, let's see here. Deals double damage to objects and structures. Bash. Yeah, it has this bash thing. Let me look at this. Block the path. Until the start of the ogre's next turn, attack rolls against the ogre have disadvantage. Has advantage on the attack roll it makes for an opportunity attack. And that attack does a deal. Okay, so here's what I want to do with these guys. Try to always pair with the half ogres, because those are the guys that those are the other enemies that we're gonna have. Try to always pair with the half ogres in combat. These guys run interference to try and keep players from easily attacking half ogres. Will plant themselves in actually I'm gonna say in between players and half ogres, and take advantage of block the path heavily. So these guys, this could actually create a really interesting combat scenario, where players have to start thinking about an enemy that's going to be using strategy, right? Because my players, like a good example of my players and the strategies that they've started to figure out, you know, they found ways to utilize resources to, like, they know they've gotten very good at funneling enemies through a door, right? So like doing that sort of 300 style approach to things, where they can just funnel their enemies through a door so they can handle them one at a time, right? They'll try and do things like that. They'll try to bunch them up so they can do then area effect damages. So my players are getting pretty good at understanding like tactical dynamics within a battle, and it's awesome as a DM to see. But it also means that I have to make sure that I'm on the ball and provide challenges for them in which enemies will do the same things back to them. Otherwise, battles are going to start getting really monotonous, where they can just kind of go through the motions every time. So things like this, where we kind of mix up the tactics that the enemies will use on the players, are really good to throw in there. It'll really make them think more and have to deal with new stuff that they might not be expecting. So I think those guys are good. I don't think we really need anything else. They'll just do block the path heavily, and so they'll just kind of set up and do that for their action most times. And then we'll say, no, you know, we'll just do that. They'll pretty much just always block the path. That's what they do. And then if a situation arises where they can't do that, then they just default back to the bash. We don't really need to say anything else about it. So there's those guys, and now we need to find our half half augurs here. Get rid of them beasts. There we go. This guy right here. Our half augur. It's perfect too because they've got their javelins. So it's like we give all of them like 3 or 4 javelins that they then use for their attacking. So let's go ahead and get a screenshot of that. Let's copy that. And I'll paste that there. Half ogre. Make our bullet points here so we can put our notes. And again, always pair with the the ogre battering ram. Always pair with ogre battering ram if possible. Will stay behind the battering ram guys and throw javelins. I'm gonna put a little note here though, just for the sake of fairness. Give each 4 javelins. So it's like I feel like 4 is a reasonable amount that they would be carrying with them. Like it would be pretty easy for them to just like strap 4 to their back with big javelins. It's not like you can have a quiver of like 20 of them or anything like that. But like you could probably strap, 4 of them onto your back or something like that. And I think having a fair number of javelins would be perfectly reasonable, especially if the lore we're going to give these guys is that they're in this forest trying to hunt that giant ape. They would probably choose something like javelins, something that's big and girthy that can actually do significant damage to something like a giant ape, but can still do it from a distance. So we'll do that. So javelins. If they run out of javelins, javelins, we'll use battle axes. You will actually not just we'll use battle axes, but will stay behind battering rams still, and only attack if a player comes into their personal space. These guys are big on personal space. So there we go. That's perfect. I actually really like that. I think that'll work. I think this gives us a good dynamic type of or collection of enemies. I think this will be fun because like with the way I do my combats and with the number of combats that will be within this like forest floor area here, I think this will be really good because players will be able to encounter packs of these reskinned cave bears, right? These other apes. They can find some packs of those to kind of get an idea, as well as encountering a couple different like ogre hunting parties, right? There will be a couple different hunting parties and compositions of those that they'll be able to encounter. So I think this is a really good balance of enemies. I think this will be really fun. And the thing that I really like about this is I think this will be a really fun curveball, a really fun flavor change from what the dungeon will have been up until this point for the players. Because up until this point, right, we've been underneath. They've been fighting striders, Kruthiks, spiders, that's another Kruthik right there. They've been, lots of spiders. They got the Choldrith going on there, the Crawl Death Priest, right? All these weird, nasty, horrible bug-like things, the chitin, core spawn, crawlers, Nothics, all these nasty, horrible cave-like, cave-dwelling monstrosities, these horrible, nasty 80s rubber monster suit-looking things, right? That'll just be oppressive throughout, 40 rooms worth of cave, and then suddenly they're thrust up here. And what's really good about this too is like I always try to give I try to give my players clues about what types of dangers they might face in whatever the next dungeon they're heading towards is. I always like to give them a few hints and clues so they can try and prepare for that. And I like this because this way we can kind of throw them a curveball, and there's an excuse for me to catch them off guard and make them have to deal with something that they aren't prepared for, right? Because all of these apes and ogres running around are so drastically different from the weird, like magical powered Duragar and like giant spindly wall crawling spiders and like the nasty like psychic ability, Nothix, and stuff like that. Like from all that stuff, it's such a change. It's such an atmospheric change, and I think that'll work really well. I think it'll work really well for players. So I like this monster set for this last room. So, okay, here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna take just a quick break, like less than 5 minutes. I just need to run to the bathroom. I'm gonna refresh my beverage here because I'm out of coffee. So I'm gonna quickly take care of that. It'll take probably less than 5 minutes. And then when I get back, we're gonna start just kind of coming up with some rough sketches of maps now, okay? Because we got our bare bones stuff figured out. We've kind of figured out what the foundational elements of this are gonna be. So now we need a map. So then we can, if we can get a map finished today or tomorrow, then we can, like especially next week, start really working on adding the details, figuring out what goes in which room, where do they find treasures, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get going on the map, but first, like I say, I'm going to take just a quick couple-minute break. Sit tight. I will be right back, I swear to goodness. I'll make it as quick as possible. I appreciate your patience, and yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back momentarily. Alright. I'm back. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Okay, so got ourselves a whole lot of monsters figured out. We know probably roughly who's going to be where in our dungeon. Now it's time to actually get a map going. So it's been a while since we started a fresh new map, so this is going to be fun. Fun and exciting. I dig it. I'm excited about it. Alright, let's see here. So we just need to make a new one here. So I always stick with, this is fun, I haven't had to explain this in a minute. We always stick with, when I'm starting a new map, 36 by 24. And the reason I do that is, one, I like having a limited amount of size, so that way I get more creative about layouts and how to puzzle together 10 rooms as opposed to just making like 10 big giant coliseum sized areas. I know I have the tendency to make my rooms much bigger than they need to be. You know, not really thinking about conceptually the fact that, like, well, in the first place, you know, each square is 5 feet by 5 feet. So if you have a 10 by 10 room, that's a 50 by 50 room. That's not a living room. That's like a huge ballroom, you know, like, or maybe not a huge ballroom, but you understand what I'm saying, right? It gets big. And what that tends to do with battles is it tends to make all of them very samey, right? Like, there's just big open spaces, so people, you know, the ranged guys will run into a corner and have all the room in the world to work with, and the melee guys will meet in the center, and that's just what happens. So if I limit the size and make sure my rooms don't get too big, it helps keep things more creative. So, like, a ranged player might occasionally, if a room is, especially if a room is going to be particularly small, they might have to get kind of creative about how they want to do things. If we make a room really small, then we have to worry about, you know, players will have to start thinking about, like, wow, would we even all fit in here during this battle? Who goes in, who doesn't, so on and so forth, right? You can kind of add that angle. So keeping that size within a certain frame is really good creatively, just in terms of making compelling battlefields. But the other reason that I do it that way is because I use this tool in order to use Foundry virtual tabletop system. That's the one that I use personally. Highly recommend it, although there are a few other really just as excellent sources out there. But for playing online, that's the one I use. And my group that I DM for, our baseline is that we play weekly online, and then when we get the chance to, we get together in person and all play in person. So by doing the 36 by 24, I can make maps that are usable online, but then they all fit within the 2 by 3 foot board, game board battle map that I have, where, like, each square is 1 inch by 1 inch. You know, because, you know, for all of the people that live in sensible cultures that use metric system, the foot and inches system, there are 12 inches per foot. So 36 by 24, it gives us a nice even number of inches with our 2 by 3. And so that way I can directly transport whatever map I make in here for the online system. I can directly put it onto the battle map that I have in real person, so it's real easy for me to fit everything that I need to in an in-person session when we're there. And it's perfect. So ultimately, the dirty little secret is that's really the only reason that I do it. I make up that whole creativity thing just to make myself feel better about the fact that I'm lazy and I don't want to have to erase and redraw maps because I make them bigger than that. So we're going to start a map right there, and we're just going to start it from scratch. Now, this is going to be, this dungeon is going to be mostly a series of caves. Now, there's actually one thing that I'm going to do here. I'm gonna actually swap these. I'm gonna make it 24 by 36 because I want this to be a north-south running thing, and so it's just easier on the map especially when you're doing it online. It's just easier to have it oriented north and south easily that way. It's just easier for players to conceptualize it. I mean, we could put a compass that says north is to the left or to the right if we wanted to, but that just it gets convoluted and confusing. And it's not fun to have to do that. So we'll do it this way, because I want these to run north and south, because if we're to look at if we're going to pop back here again, right? So they're starting off in Cogdoral, and the vaults are kind of like underneath the lake here is kind of where the dwarves hide them, so that way they can't just be easily dug to elsewhere, and that's what's going to give us our opportunity to just sort of like have the vault get flooded and players have to find another way out, and, you know, it's a little too convenient, but hey, we're not only are we are trying to create a sandbox for players to play in, but also we're trying to create a story. And sometimes you have to have some things be just a little bit narratively streamlined, is the kind way of saying railroaded. So we're gonna stick with the north-south, and there's going to basically be 4 sections that are underground, and then 1 section that's above ground is how we want to do this. So if we go back here, so the first section here is going to be more, so when I'm thinking about how I want to do this, right? So we can actually pull up here. This is our map of Kog'Dral. This is it's all underground, right? Because it's the Dwarven city, but this is the rough layout of the city, and this is where the vaults, the entrance to the vaults are, and it goes there. Now the thought that I had for this though is that this isn't the entirety of the city. This is just the part of the city that's like guarded and secured by the Duergar, as they're using it in this day and age. My thought is that there are, like to the east, especially to the east and to the west, there are more portions of the city, but these are portions of the city that are overrun with horrible, nasty creatures that live in the caves. And so instead of trying to really reclaim that, because they don't have the need for all that space yet, the Duergar instead have sort of like sealed them off and just guard the doors. And I have the same idea going north here with the vaults. So this first section, I feel like, is going to be a more blocky type of setup. And I really want it to, like, we're gonna kind of structure it like we would any other dungeon where there's like rooms and stuff, but I actually kind of want this to feel more like a city square of sorts, if that makes any sense. So what I'm gonna do here, so we're just gonna pull up our straight up wall tool, and we'll go with like the stone wall. It doesn't really matter. And I'm actually going to just be kind of boring about this and just frame off our area here. I always like to kind of frame it off here so we can do entrances and exits and stuff like that. So we're going to frame off this area, right? And I want to... Let me think about this here. Yeah, here's our center line. So I want to put a door here. I want a nice... I want it to be a double door here, so we're just going to take 2 single doors to make a double door here. Vaults holding general value or something specific that would require architecture to support it. So the vaults, these vaults are very, very much just like, your stereotypical big giant piles of dwarven gold type of vaults. There's nothing too specific that would require any specific architecture beyond just the fact that they would, at least some of it, have displayed it proudly. Like there might be some statues of gold and things like that. But really just at least in my brain space, and admittedly, I have not spent an overton amount of time thinking about it yet. So there's a lot of room for it to change still, but my idea is that it would be more of a just like a wide open grand hall type of thing. So there would be architecture, but it's not a key element per se. The tool that I'm using, so this is Dungeon Draft, and I am a big fan of it. There are a lot of content packs that you can purchase for it. I have not purchased all of them because money is limited, and I have a lot of other things that I need to spend it on these days. But there are a lot of content packs, so you can get even more objects and stuff to work with. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. I really like it. The thing that's nice about it is it plays very nicely with virtual tabletop systems, particularly Foundry. It plays very nice with them. Doors can be opened and closed. Lights behave appropriately so that like rooms are either dark or light, based on being walled off and stuff like that, and like around corners and stuff like that, line of sight. So like it keeps track of where there's walls and objects, so you can manage line of sight. It's a really handy dandy tool, and it's just like with Foundry. There are a lot of other tools that will offer the same functionality as Dungeon Draft, but definitely Dungeon Draft is the one that I've been using. and it's very affordable. The baseline program is like what, $20 or something like that. I think that's what it was. And it's yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I highly recommend it for sure. Okay, so just a point of clarification. The apes are not underground. Underground are where we have all of our spiders. I'll pull up our notes again, right? This is for the final section when they're going up above ground in the forest. When they're underground going towards the vaults, this is when they're fighting all kinds of like spiders, Kruthiks, Nothics, and stuff like that. So the apes themselves will not be underground. The apes are a different part of this dungeon. The dungeon is a very loose term that I use here. So that's an interesting idea, and I like that idea. But actually, the thing that I was thinking about too, a lot of these cool ideas that you guys are having for like all of these apes and this wildlife and stuff like that, we have a whole forest that is going to feature heavily in the next step of this campaign once we're done with our underground area here. So a lot of those ideas are going to be super handy, and I will probably borrow from them, which is just a kind way of saying, you know, steal them. And consider them interesting things to do up here. So when you're talking about apes swinging from chains inside buildings and stuff, there's gonna be like elven societies and stuff in this forest. So that would be a really interesting way to use elven architecture and put things like apes and monkeys and stuff in there. So that's a really good idea. But it's not gonna come up in this dungeon. It won't come up in here because the underground does not have the apes in it. The apes are the final step when they are back above ground for it. So whoops. I accidentally wheeled over my blanket. That's no good. That's not good for the blanket. I'm gonna put all kinds of runs and stuff in it. That'd be sad. Okay, so this first portion of the dungeon, I want this to feel almost like a city square of sorts, right? I kind of want it to feel like there's like alleys and stuff for them to explore down and everything. So I kind of want it to break down into there being like just sort of like a general road that maybe winds a little bit and goes around up until there's like another passage that goes through here, right? The door just serving as like, this is where, these are the double doors that the Duergar are guarding, that then grants access to this like expanded part of the city. And the scale is a little off for it, but it's fine. It's fine. It'll make things interesting. And so kind of what I want to do here is I want to go back to my wall tool. Well, actually, hold on. Let me pull up the doors here. I want the doors to be, let's see, we'll put the doors that lead out of here up here. So we'll do that one, and that one right there. Okay, so those are the two doors. That's ultimately where players are going to be able to travel to. So now I want to take my wall tool, though, and I want to set up kind of, okay, so sort of things get tricky because the wall tool can be kind of, or rather, there's not a good way to erase parts of a wall. It's either all or nothing. But the general, we can just kind of recreate some things here. So the general kind of structure or walkabout pattern that I'm feeling for this here is to, we do one collection of buildings that fills up that area, one collection of buildings that'll fill up this area, right? And this is me at work with what I'm talking about when I say just put random crap down. Even if you know you're gonna edit it, put random crap down so you don't get too hung up on trying to get everything exactly right on the first time, because that's how you'll end up sitting there, and that's kind of like where writer's block comes from, right? So I'm just putting down some random crap here that we're gonna sort of slowly start refining, right? So it's like I want all of these spaces to all be buildings, and for this general walkway to be like the main street of this portion of this underground dwarven city of sorts that will then take them to the next stage of the pathway. And so I kind of want this, but I want there to be some alleys, and that's why I'm leaving this here, right? Because that's gonna be our framework for our basic alleys here. And so I want to, so we can edit points. But yeah, so it's just gonna do that. So really what we'll need to do is, I think we can, yeah, so it's just gonna do stuff like that to us here. Hold on, so let's undo here. So I think what I want to do here's how we can do this. Be done editing points here. Because I want there to be some other alleys that go through there, and I want there to just be like different buildings. Like one of them is an abandoned pub, one of them is someone's home. You know, a couple of them can be people's homes. A couple of them, like one of them is a shop front, things like that. I want to put stuff like that in there. And so I'm thinking. Okay, wait, hold on. First off, there's something that I want to do. I'll take that there. Let's put another point there. And then one more point that goes there. So we can add like a little square there, and we can kind of do the same down here, right? I want things to feel a little more dynamic than just like all these narrow walkways. So if we do things like this, we can put like a little fountain in one of them. We can put some benches there, right? And it'll make it feel more like a city plaza or something. In fact, I want this one to be a little bit bigger. So we can move some of these points, right? So we can put a couple squares there, and we can have a couple alleys that lead off. So it's like what we can do. Let's get off our editing points here. We can just kind of like mark off. So like this here is a building, right? And then this is just like a narrow alley that goes through this being a building as well, right? So it's like we got two buildings right there, you know, and maybe along here we can almost do something. Actually, this would be kind of an interesting way to like demonstrate too how based on what parts of the mountain have been dug out to create a city, right? We're kind of inventing lore as we go. I don't like that positioning. I wanna move this over a little bit more, maybe like right there, right? So it's like we can just kind of imagine how these dwarves might have used what space is available to them. If we like break off a building like this, right? So right here, we can make this like a pub. And so going all along down here are just like sitting booths, right? Because when you think about this, this is 5 feet by 5 feet. So if you put a table and like if you do like a booth with a table there, right? We could have like a whole bunch of booths that go up along there with just a walkway alley, and that would be a reasonable, like, you know, small restaurant type of situation. So there'd be like a good eatery there, you know, and so there's like an abandoned eatery that would be there. And it's like we could, trying to think about how we can use some of our space. What would be an interesting use of space here also? Check this out. We could do like this is some sort of shop right here where we've got our pub. And so we could set that up there. And then what I'm thinking here would be kind of interesting is then if we do like right here and then here. Actually, wait, here, we'll do that and we'll do that. So we've got another alley that goes there. This is another restaurant area, right? And then this, like maybe not restaurant, but this is like another shop. And then back here is just sort of like a back alley area right there, right? And so this could be a fun, unique part of our dungeon that offers up interesting things for our players to have to, you know, that could be where there's like some sort of monster in hiding. Or even actually, you know, it would be really good right there. Oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. I need to put a note about this here. I'll need to make sure and put a note about it somewhere. We'll pull up our notebook to put notes. So I talked yesterday about how I really want to put Duergar in here that aren't explicitly enemies, right? Because the Duergar are potentially going to be, you know, sort of like allies, you know, situational allies, where it's like we're not fans of them, but you know, they're more civilized than a lot of the monsters, and maybe we can work together, you know, to both of us achieve and find whatever we want to find from these vaults, right? So we can put, the, like, and so what I want to do is, like, the Duergar have been trying to get access to the vaults, and their most recent party didn't return, and so they're assumed to be dead, but we can put them, like, hold up in here, and maybe they're injured and they're trapped here because of all of the other monsters that are kind of roaming around in this area. So we can put them in this alley, right? Like they've been hiding in this alley or something like that, and players can then find them to interact with them. Something like that, you know, if players are exploring these areas, they might hear some shuffling or someone accidentally knocking, you know, a stone or a plank or something over, and they find the Duergar hiding in there or something like that. That would be a really good use of that space. Right, so it's like, and if we consider, knowing that we want to have like 10 areas generally speaking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we do, like, if we can break this into 3 areas, right? So we can do 8 in there, and then maybe let's see, or just put another alley there to kind of connect things and let them be able to sneak around. So if we do 8, and then maybe there's just like 2 shops that are around here, 2 small shops. So that gives us, let me count again just to make sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's our 10 rooms. We've given them all kinds of alleys to try and sneak and work their way around. And so that gives them a lot of space, and then a lot of different rooms that can be fun because there can be different excuses to have all kinds of different treasures and stuff hidden around. I think this is going to be a good layout. I think we'll be able to work with this, and we obviously need to refine it. But thanks, Ciderant. Glad you were here today. Glad you enjoyed. Appreciate you being here. But yeah, we can do that, and we've got like just 2 sort of city center squares and stuff, and like with these alleys and stuff, it gives them a lot of unique areas to run through and run around in. So I think this is gonna work really well. I really like this. Okay, so now the tough part though is we need to rebuild this because we're going to get rid of all of our framework here. So we'll just have to rebuild this one at a time. So what we can do is we can edit the points. Right, so we have this here. Because I can't just delete this segment. That's one thing that I dislike about this, the way they do the walls in this tool, is that you can't just delete a segment of wall. So if I want this little segment gone, I have to delete the whole wall. And since we made the round, we're gonna have to delete it bit by bit. So the best way to do this, I found, is we can just like slowly minimize this. Right, because what we'll do is slowly minimize this, get that out of the way, and now we'll make a new wall that fills that gap. Boom, so we've got that. Go back to our edit points. And now let's go ahead and edit this room back into place so it goes up there to make our square. And so the trick is just to always remember how you had it laid out, but it's usually not too hard to do, just like one room here and there. Right, so now we'll get rid of the edit points here. It's here, like that, there, and there. So now we got that one. So we're gonna do it that way. That's it. Oh geez. Okay, you got a paragraph for me here. Hold on a second. Have a pun in mind. I mean, I do like a good pun. Duergar, how many large bug bites? They say it came from golf ball-sized bugs. Attack them in the pub basement when they started drinking the remaining alcohol. When the players go down, they find the new enemy. The barfly. I like that. That's a good pun. That's a real good pun. You monster. That's a good one. All right, so let's see here. So we need to. Let's see here. So we can take. No, I don't actually want you to do this one, you goofy thing. Oh my gosh, you goofy the system. Okay, so we want to move these guys here so we can come down here and really, so yeah, see, this is where it gets kind of irritating because it, hold on, undo that, because it won't let me, yeah, there's no way to, I just have to like, just keep moving these points out of the way until we get this one out of the way here. And then we can bring it back. So we bring that up there. Okay, there we go. So actually, you know what we can start doing? We can just start deleting some of these points here. Yeah, actually, I'm going to just go ahead and confidently delete the remaining points that we have here. So it's just going to make me do it this way. So it puts everything else above them. Alright, let's see here. There we go. That one. Oh, leave that one alone. There, okay. So now we can just take our wall tool here and re-put in the remaining bits of buildings that we've taken away here. It's there. Just like that. So we got a couple of alleys and stuff going around here. Right, so that looks pretty good. That looks pretty spot on to what I was looking for. Because the idea of this wall here, keep in mind, the idea for this wall is really that like there's kind of an alley, but the idea is that in theory, this portion of the city expands out that way, or it runs into just the wall of the mountain, in theory. The idea is that this is not really just this small isolated bit of city or anything right here. It's just this is the portion of the city that we're providing for fun stuff as a surrogate for the entire portion of that city, which might be, 10, 15, 100 times bigger than just this. But, sometimes we have to keep things kind of under control for the sake of a game. It's really fun to have everything be cohesive and realistic for your games, but it's totally okay to sometimes remember that ultimately it is a game, and so if you have to make things a little less realistic for the sake of providing a game, then hey, that's what you do. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, and then let's see, I just need to get rid of the rest of our points here. This one I'm just going to delete straight. Oh my goodness gracious. So the one problem with this tool is it tends to, actually, you know what we can do for this one? Let's delete that, actually, and just bring that one back up there, because we want that box there. Now we'll go to our wall tool here. Stop editing points. Boom. Boom, right there. 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 Dot. Dot. And then dot. Dot. There we go. There we go. So we got a couple of different alleys and stuff like that going on there. We got these connectors here. We can even actually put up like doors and stuff and just set it. It's like, it's in a lot of ways it's going to kind of just end up feeling like, a suburban neighborhood, but underground. But like I say, sometimes we allow the setting to be a little less than 100% realistic for the sake of providing the game that we're looking for, and I want to give them a feel like, hey, we're still in the city, we're working our way through there, right, but this is definitely abandoned, but I want to give them those like alleys and stuff they can work through. I think it'll be really fun. So now the last little bit of foundational stuff, and we're not gonna put in any of the details for any of the rooms quite yet. I like to put in the framework here, and I want to, let's see, we need a text book here, or text box, excuse me. Get our font down a little bit. And now we just go in here and we're going to number all of our rooms here. And the reason we number them is so that way when we refer to our notes in here, we can see like I have up here, just with the framework that I'll end up filling in, room number, so that way when players walk into a room and I'm looking at my notes page, I know exactly which room of notes to look at. So it's kind of arbitrary. I always just kind of go along and just number them. It's really arbitrary. But, we need some way to distinguish things. And it makes it easier for players to be able to just say, yeah, we want to go in room number 5. That's the room we're trying to go into. And so it just makes it easier. And, oops, I always forget that when I press space to move around, it also, it also adds the spaces into the text box. I always forget that it does that. It's one thing that I'm not a super ultra big fan of how the system works, but hey, not everything's always perfect. Oops, shoot. 2. And okay, the 1 looks like it's okay. So 3, 4, 5. Okay. 6, 7. Oh wait, no, hold on. Move. Put 6 right there, because that alley is gonna be 1. 6. We got 7 right here. Suburban dwarves can't imagine worse neighbors. Whoa, rude to dwarves much? I don't know if I can adequately conceptualize what it would be like to live next door to a dwarf. I honestly, I imagine dwarves would be perfectly fine neighbors. Like, I feel like dwarves work, but I feel like dwarves would respect the concept of only working during like business hours. So you might hear the clanging of their workshops and stuff going, but like, I don't know. I feel like they would be good, and like they'd probably throw a really good Super Bowl party or something like that. Go watch the game on Saturday. I feel like they'd be pretty good at providing beer for that. Like I feel like I could imagine some worse neighbors. Okay, So there we got our rooms numbered, and we will go through and put notes in later. The one thing that I do want to do, though, is I do want to make a quick note for myself here in our first set of rooms here. I'm just going to take this. We need to do a lot more than just this, but I want to put this down so I don't forget. Room 6, and we're going to put the injured the injured Duergar here. Boom, that's where they're gonna go. I want them in that room. I think that's a really good place to put them. So okay, so we got that. So now just with that that foundational thing done, let's see here. Level settings. So we got, instead of calling it ground, because like it treats these as layers, as if we were going like up and down with like different stories, but it really doesn't matter, because whenever you save them as an image or try to upload them, it treats them treats each floor as its own separate document, unrelated to the rest of them. So it really doesn't matter, and so I like to just keep them all in one packet, even if it doesn't go by floors. Rather than opening up a new document, I like to just put other layers within here. But we're going to call this stage 1. Now we need to create another one. I'll call this stage 2. Accept that. I want to move stage 2 just down here, just because conceptually it makes me happier when it's that way. Terrain brush, we want our terrain on. We're going with, actually, honestly, we can, yeah, we'll stick with settlement, honestly, because it just gives us our dirt and stone looking terrain there, and that's really what we want anyway. So I mean, it is kind of a settlement anyway, right? It's a little city. It's a little city of dwarves, well, now of nothing but maybe hurt Duergar and nasty spiders. But it was once a nice little city, a neighborhood of dwarves. So for this one, I think I almost want to do the same thing with this one, where it ends up being where like this one ends up being that same sort of city center, but it's like maybe that first step is all shops, and maybe this one ends up being more homes, right? So it'll end up feeling a little bit different here. So it's like it's still in the city, so we're still going to bloop, 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 and bloop, do that there. And actually, you know what I'm thinking for this one would be kind of fun. You know, you thought that was, we thought what we just did was suburban, right? We're just gonna get even more. I'm thinking we can just do like all houses here, all houses. The Duergar create any outposts or defensive positions of all. There's just been expeditions. It's just been expeditions. They have not been able to crack into the vaults. That's kind of a key plot point for it. They want to get to the vaults, but they have been unable to due to the horrible, nasty monsters that exist down there. So they have not had any success getting back there. Most of them just end up dying at the hands of like the Kruthik and the Nothics and stuff like that. So they've tried, but they have not succeeded. And that's where our players are going to demonstrate that they're just better in general. So, let's see here. I want to put in really quickly. Oh wait, no, hold on. What am I doing? We want the portal tool. We want our doors. That one right there. And then again, we're just going to go with the double doors. It's kind of arbitrary, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, we want to put that one right there, and then this one right there. That works great. And so for this one, I'm thinking almost more of like a grid pattern setup to make it really feel like it's all just homes. I think that would work really well. I'm trying to think here, though. Can do... I almost want to put just like a town square central or something like that in the center there. How do I want to lay this out? Let's get our wall tool again going here. Because like I guess what I'm kind of thinking, and again, we're just going to start spewing stuff down on the ground here. can just kind of start plopping them down. Like, they don't really need to be all that uniform. Right? Because it's like, yes, we're making it kind of like a suburban home layout of sorts, just with smaller houses. But that doesn't always have to lock us into too much specifics. But it's like we can be a bit more freeform. I want these to be a bit more spacious, right? Like, it's almost, well, no, see, I don't like that. I don't like that. What if we, I'm not so close to the doors there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I have an idea. Let's get rid of that one. I have a thought. I have a thought, baby, in my head. We'll see if it gestates into something worthwhile. Because I really want this to feel kind of uniform, and set up, like I say, just sort of like a suburban hell type of situation, right? You can do like there to there. Right, we can kind of make them a little bit varied in their sizes. Do it like that, and then maybe just to make things seem a bit more interesting, kind of reverse some of the sizes of these houses, right? That one's nice and small. Make this one a bit bigger. And then do another set of them here. And that leaves the doorways kind of open, right? And so this is like really just like explicitly, no doubt about it, this is just like a housing block. And they've just set it up like this, you know, with this little grid pattern to just kind of efficiently use the space. It's not really an efficient use of the space, but you understand what I'm saying. And it's just so like this way it'll feel a lot different than that first section they were in, because I want each section to kind of have its own flavor, so to speak. So then we just make all these different homes. You know, the bigger ones have an extra room for family or something like that. Smaller ones are just like some bachelor pad or whatever. So we can kind of do it that way. So I think that'll work. I feel like this one's going to need more workshopping. I'm not convinced that I like it as it is, but we're going to put it there for now, and we can always change it later if and when I decide to. So let's just quickly get our numbers in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. And then do that so I don't accidentally add spaces. And then 9 and 10. There we go. So we can do that. Just set it up like that. That's perfect. Alright, so that is our second floor. Let's go back to our levels here. Our second floor, our second set of rooms. So come here. We're going to create one more. Well, we're going to make more than one more, but stage 3 here. So now stage 3 is going to feel very much just like a series of caves. At this point in time, they've departed the city, and they're just part of the long cave trek that will eventually take them to where the vault is. So we're going to accept that. We're going to make our stage 3, draw it down here. So now here's where things are going to get start to really depart from how we've had it so far. Let's turn our terrain on. Now the wall to it. So now we can do, so this is one thing that I've always kind of struggled with. I kind of want to try and make it again, because we're sticking with just caves. They have a cave tool here, and so I want this to start feeling like a cave. So rather than setting up the walls and everything, I'm just going to dig out sort of some rooms and some pathways, and it's like, and the whole purpose of this is, again, this is the dwarves trying to protect their vaults. So I want this to be intentionally like they dug this out to be a confusing labyrinth with lots of rooms that have lots of traps and stuff connected. So I really want this to feel that sort of like weird, confused way about things, right? So we can kind of get our cave tool going on here, right? And I'm just going to kind of plop down a bunch of random rooms Right, and then we're just going to connect them all very randomly in all kinds of different ways here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we can just do like 10. And so now that's the first. That's how you get into the first one here. And so now let's make our pathways a little bit smaller here. Do stuff like that. Just kind of connect these in really odd, kind of unpredictable and strange ways, right? Just kind of do that there, like that. Maybe we can connect those two up like that. Do that. Maybe make this one just a nice winding tunnel. Actually, I kind of like that idea for all of these larger spaces. Just make these big winding tunnels that make things kind of confusing. Because the idea also is that a lot of these will probably have different potential blockages and stuff like that once we start kind of hammering out exactly how I want all of these things to kind of be broken up into different pathways and stuff for the players to take. We can do that. But see, now we've got this sort of confusing winding network, and it's hard to make a map really confusing and disorienting in D&D because players will always have the top-down view, and they'll always, you don't even need to be able to physically read a map to understand a map from a D&D perspective, because you're in this room and you see the picture of your guy and how they go in there. I mean, you can add that fog of war aspect to make things a little confusing and a little less clear, but even then it's like players can kind of figure this stuff out. So it's hard for a top-down map view of something to actually be, disorienting from that sort of meta perspective. That can be a real challenge. So we end up using, so my approach to managing that is to end up using a lot of things like traps, blockades, and stuff like that to sort of confuse and make them have to backtrack and make them choose specific paths one over the other unless they can find the proper tool to clear out the path. I'll utilize a lot of things like that. So let's see here. So now I am going to just quickly put down our numbers again here. 1, that's 2. Again, this numbering process is pretty arbitrary. Just do it for the sake of being able to know which sets of notes correspond to which room when I'm going through all that detail. 7, 8, and then 9 and 10. There we go. So there are our rooms here. There's one thing that I just realized though. I'm going to cave brush up here. I need to make our exit here. And do that. Boom, boom. There we go. Hirschberger, hello there. We're making a dungeon that is a long story about how they got here. We're essentially just making a dungeon that is part of a long campaign that I've been working on for quite some time at this point. This particular dungeon being starting off in an ancient dwarven city that eventually devolves into being sort of these spooky, yuki tunnels that they have to make their way through until eventually they get to the dwarven treasure vaults, is what we're basically working on here. Working on just kind of getting our framework for our dungeon map going right now. So, yeah, so that's that's good rough cave looking thing there. It's tight, compact, like I say, disorienting. Like I say, it's hard to make things disorienting for players when we're looking top down. But as long as there's a lot of winding paths and stuff like that, you can kind of create that sense, at least for their imagination to understand it. So we've got that level. So we got that next stage. So we got to make we've got 2 more levels that we need to do here. This is gonna be stage 4 here. So what I think I'm gonna do for this is I'm actually going to, let's see, we need to go to our terrain brush, just get our terrain turned on there. So I think what I'm going to do for this part is I'm going to stick with the cave tool, and I'm going to make just sort of like another set of rooms very similar to that last set that we just did, and then have the exit be into the vaults. I don't know that I'm going to worry about making the vault itself part of this dungeon, just because I want the vault to be much more grand, and I'm worried that by just making even just a big room in here, it'll kind of undercut the sort of grand vision I want to give my players. So I kind of want to just have like the last bit of this dungeon be the doorway that leads them into the vault, the pathway that leads into the vault, and then I can describe the vault with theater of the mind, so that way I don't, like I say, I don't accidentally undercut the grandeur of this thing. So we'll do some rooms. There's one thing that I do want to do with this portion of it, so let's just go ahead and get ourselves some random rooms here going on there. There's one room though with this one. I do want to make one room in particular in here much bigger, a much bigger cavern, because there's going to be one cavern that like has like a moon roof of sorts that opens up to the top, and that's their escape route once the traps are sprung that are eventually going to flood this dungeon for the last sort of stage of it here. So I want a nice big room here. The idea being that there's this big room that has like a vaulted ceiling, which is really just like the ceiling collapsing and stuff. So there's a few openings to the outside world that as the water level rises, as long as the players can get to this room in time, they'll just kind of rise to the surface and then be outside, is the idea that I had with that. It'll take a little bit of explaining and suspension of disbelief to get players to buy into that happening, but we'll make it work. So let's see, that gives us 5 rooms. We need 10 total. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There we go. Shrink our thing down a little bit here so we can give ourselves some tunnels, some pathways that connect a lot of these here. Doesn't really matter what connects to what. It can all be kind of arbitrary. I do want to funnel them through here, so I got to make sure that this path that's like the entrance here. In fact, I want to put the entrance here so they could miss these rooms and stuff depending on what they do. But I want to funnel them through here because it's going to be important to make sure I at least give them that that knowledge base of like, hey, there's a skylight here. That could be like, you know, an excuse if you could reach it. And it's like the explanation is like, oh, it's so high you can't even hardly fling a rope with a grappling hook up there to get out. But like, yeah, like, look, you can see the moon through there. Wink, wink. You know, give our players that little bit of information there. And that is what takes us to the vaults there. So we're going to do that. Yeah, there we go. I like that better. All right, so let's just quickly number these rooms here. Yep, okay. So number 1, room number 2, room number 3, room number 4, number 5, number 6. And like I say, the numbering is pretty arbitrary. It's just a way to make sure that we line up our notes with the room that we're looking at. Let's see here. 9, 10. You have needs, do you? That's there's something ominous. I'm sure it's just my brain, but there's something ominous about the way he wrote that. Oh boy. I am a DM though. I am a DM. You did get that much right. All right. So yeah. Okay. So there's numbering those rooms. That's great. Grand. Need help creating a one-shot. What are you trying to achieve with the one-shot? What kind of one-shot are you wanting to do? Are you wanting like a spooky haunted house one-shot? Trying to do like a holiday special one-shot? There's one-shots. One-shots are restrictive in length, but boy oh boy, in terms of just what type of world and attitude you want to do with your one-shots, the world is kind of your oyster with those ones, because even if it ends up flopping, it's only one session, so you can just kind of go nuts and not worry about being stuck with something that ends up not landing like you hoped. There's a certain level of freedom that you can get with that. Let's see here. We need to do our last stage here. Stage 5. Accept that. Bring it down here just for the sake of order. So now this is the part where our players will be making it outside. So I want to. I don't know that I like any of these options. I'm trying to do. I guess we'll do rainforest, even though it's really meant to just be a regular forest. And it's fine. It'll work. So if we do that there, So now this one is going to be, so this is where it starts getting a little tricky to try and figure out exactly how to structure it, because it's out in the open. So it's like, how do you make a dungeon out of this? And so we'll be doing a lot of trees, plopping a lot of trees and stuff. But I think the way I'm going to do this is we're going to use our terrain brush, and we'll put down like the dirt pathways of where they're going to be. So I'm going to have them pop out over here, right? So that's going to be the entryway. They come out of the ground there, and then they're going to, let's see, okay, we'll make this terrain brush a little bit bigger here. And so that's like, we'll just, usually what I do with forests is I'll do series of clearings, and I'll just tell them to theater of the mind it a little bit, even though the map shows them as being very close with these paths. Just imagine that the pathways are a lot longer, so that way it's like they trek through the woods for like a certain amount of time, and then they make it to this clearing, and then they trek through for a certain amount of time. So you just sort of play kind of fast and loose with the sort of the time and the distance dilation a little bit, just to make it work. But mostly that's just to explain to players and help them understand that it's like, you can make all the noise you want over here. It's not like right in this clearing anything there is going to hear it. The idea is that there's a lot of forest between, so if you hear noises, they're off in the distance, even if they happen in that next room. And you know, you just kind of loose form. It takes a little bit of imagination to do it, but I mean, we're playing D&D, so you better come into this with imagination. Otherwise, boy oh boy, it's gonna be a game for you. So we'll just do a series of clearings. We don't need to do a whole lot of detail on this. We'll eventually add the detail that we need later. So we can do 1, 2, 3 clearings. 1 clearing, 2 clearing, red clearing, blue clearing. So do 1 right there. That's 4. Come up here, right? 5, 6 like that. 7, and do like 8. We do like 1 that kind of bends around. 9, and then 10. Perfect. And then we'll put like the entrance back into the caves, because they're trying to get back to that Dwarven city, right? We put the entrance there, but now we can just again do our like narrow pathways here, and like I say, we just kind of theater of the mind it. And tell players to just be like, recognize that, you know, these pathways are a lot longer than they appear. This is just kind of how this is the best we can do with our technological limitations, right? So we can just kind of set up a few pathways here, and there's one useful thing that we can do, and I'm going to take the time to do it. We're getting pretty close to the end of today's writing stream here, so there's not a whole lot left for today, but before we depart, before I sign off, I'm going to do one final thing. What we can do here is we can do object tool here, and actually we'll just go to our tags over here, and we'll do trees. And what we can do is fine. I want to stick with kind of the more like, I kind of want this to be more of a pine tree type of feel, right? But what we can do is then just start, you know, plopping all kinds of trees around here. And you just fill this in with trees, and this is going to give it a much more. I'm going to unsnap to grid here. Right. Oops. I don't want to block off my path on accident. But you can start kind of plopping trees around in these places, and this will start giving it a much more wooded feel. It'll isolate a lot of these clearings and everything, right? You know, and you can, and actually just to kind of offer a little bit more atmosphere, right? You kind of have a little bit of space every now and then in some of these things to just make it not feel quite so uniform. We can grab some different trees and plop them down, mix up the looks a little bit here and there, right? But you just kind of fill in the spaces here, and that'll help it start feeling like a bit more of like a forest type of situation, right? And we can kind of put down our primary layer of a bunch of trees and everything here. Sometimes they'll overhang the area, sometimes they won't, right? We're just kind of offering clearings and blockages, and so the trees are like our surrogates for walls and stuff, just to help with that sort of visualization of what we're trying to convince our players of here. Namely that they can't just like see from one area to the next. So it's like we can do that, and then we can take some of these types of trees, right, and we can kind of plop some of these down here just to kind of mix it up and give it a bit more of a dynamic foresty feel. Right, you just kind of do some stuff like this here and there. Grab maybe a different one. Right. And you just kind of mix it up. And you just throw it there. And at this point in time, we're just trying to add a little bit of artistic flair to some things. Right. Maybe a couple of these bad boys around there. Does not need to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. I'm actually, ooh, yikes! That's a big boy right there. I don't want that one there. You can put this there. That right there. That right there. There we go. And that'll suffice. I'll probably want to doctor that up a little bit and make it look a little bit better in some ways, but that'll suffice for now. So now we can go ahead and get our text boxes going here. Get our texts going. So we can number our rooms here again. Our clearings, I should say, in this one. It's not really rooms. 3, 4, 5. Let's see, now is the trick where I have to like make sure I remember what I was making for like the different regions. 6, 7, 8, 9, and then this is our last one here. 10. There we go. Okay. Let's see here. Heroes are drawn into the astral plane for session. I'm looking for a good adventure idea in the area. Oh man, that's super general. That's super general. I don't know. I don't know how helpful I'll be if it's gonna be that general. I mean, just any kind of adventure in the astral plane, like what drew them in there? Was it a god that drew them in there? Are they trying to get back? Are they trying to find something in there? Like, did they go there intentionally to try and find a treasure? Are they trying to save a person who was there? I mean, I guess like just a starting point, if you're trying to come up with an idea, if you're talking about them getting drawn in there, I guess like the first thing to do is to try and think about, what is their purpose? Are they trying to retrieve something? Are they just trying to escape from the astral plane? Like, what's their end game is kind of what you need to think about, I would say. It's what it seems to me like the next step in trying to plan the one shot here is, like I say, like, were they forced in there? Are they trying to escape? Are they trying to rescue something? Are they treasure hunting? Are they trying to kill someone? Are they hunting someone? Like, did they go in there because they're chasing someone? I would say that's your next step. Try and figure that out. Try and make sense of what they're there for and what they're trying to achieve. And once you have that, then you can kind of think about, okay, once you know what they're trying to achieve, then you can think about, okay, what are the roadblocks for them achieving that? And then from there, you can start layering in your details about monsters to fight based on what the roadblocks are, different types of traps and puzzles and stuff for them to solve based on what they're trying to achieve and what the different roadblocks, what different individuals are trying to, what and why, what's trying to stop them and why it's trying to stop them. So I think I would say those are okay. So they're looking for a phase spider. Are they trying to? I'm assuming they're trying to kill it then. So you got like a monster hunt. So then I would say break it down. Like if you're doing it just as a one shot, I would recommend having, just like a single dungeon with maybe 10 to 15 rooms, and just make them all chock full of stuff. Go with maybe err on the side of 15 rooms or so that there's plenty of stuff to do. Because it's always better to have too much stuff, because then if like the session is dragging on and on for a one shot and they need to get to the end of it, then you can cut some stuff out. But then what I would say if you're doing a monster hunt is you draw them in there, and then each room has some sort of clue that will point them in a direction. And they start at one side of the dungeon, right? So it's like if we're looking at our map that we have here, if they're looking here, they start at one. Oops, I didn't mean to add all these spaces to 10. I'm sorry, 10. I didn't mean to do that to you. I would say start them off like down here, and then have just a bunch of rooms that have a bunch of different pathways, a bunch of different options for them to go. Plant your spider in one room. Maybe even you have the spider moves from room to room every once in a while. Every time they go to a room, the spider goes to a different room. And you have each room with a clue that will point them in the proper direction. So it's up to them to sort of find the clues and interpret them to push them towards that spider until eventually they land in the room that's going to have the boss fight, and then they fight the phase spider. The other thing I would recommend considering, give the phase spider some allies, because if it's all of them just against the phase spider, regardless of levels, it's going to be pretty easy for them to take down just a single enemy. So give that phase spider a bunch of allies in that boss battle, so that way You can have ways to try and divide the players, get them to have to focus and consider things other than just one enemy that they can all just wail on. Because if you have even just like 3 or 4 players all ganging up against one thing, if they all get 1 to 3 actions per turn against this spider, they will be able to just very quickly chip away at it. So yeah, egg sacs full of phase spiderlings. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Throw something like that in there to make sure that the battle is more than just them surrounding the one enemy and just whack, 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 whack until it dies, right? Like, make the battle more dynamic. Put other enemies that'll be there. Make the enemies smart enough to have them try and divide up the players so they can't all just like bunch together and like constantly be healing each other and stuff. They have to think about space management and stuff like that. So those are some tips I would offer. I would say if you do that type of stuff, that would be a good starting place for planning it. And if you have further questions, I would be happy to. Okay, here, one more question. I'll help you with this one last question, but then I am gonna take my break because I'm already 15 minutes over the stream, and I'm supposed to be starting my video game stream here pretty soon. But yeah, well, let me see. What do you got here? Nature of the environment, ship template. I mean, honestly, I think that's up to you. I think that's up to you and what your players want. Because I think you can. I mean, it's a phase spider, bounces everywhere. You can do whatever you want. I think in general, if you're just hunting spiders, caves, abandoned cities, or forests would all be perfectly acceptable settings. I think it's just really up to you. Maybe think about what kind of puzzles and challenges you want to present your players. And then think about how those would thematically fit in different environments and find the environment that would fit the best, is what I would say. I mean, it's really up to you. I think that's a detail that's best left to you to sort of ponder about and think about and decide for yourself. Think about, like I say, the other bit of advice is think about your players. If you know your players, think about what kind of environments would they like? Are they players that really love, pirates and sea shanties and stuff like that? If that's the case, then yeah, put the spider on a ghost ship and they have to navigate a ghost ship. If they really like, Lord of the Rings style high fantasy, then think about putting it in a dark forest or a deep cave. Just think about what your players like and set the setting there, because largely it's kind of arbitrary. Once you know what the general enemies are, as long as it's a setting that there would believably be a giant spider in. I mean, believably, it's a giant spider. We're already diving into fiction there. But that's what I would say to do. I would say don't rely on me to come up with that one for you. I would say think about what type of experience your players will want and you want to give your players, and then build the environment around that, is what I would suggest. And the other thing to remember, too, though, is don't overthink it too much. Once you got your theme, just kind of stick with it, because ultimately, if they're good players, they're just going to appreciate that you're running a game for them, and they're going to have fun with it no matter what, right? That's the one thing I always remind myself is, like, if I obsess too much about it, the only person that's going to notice that I've obsessed about it is me. My players, it doesn't matter what I end up choosing, my players will have fun with it. As long as I'm willing to be flexible and provide them the game experience that they want, then they'll have fun with it, and that at the end of the day, that's what matters. So I would say don't stress about it too much. Just think about what type of environment that you would like to lead your players through and your players would like to be led through, and go with it, and just have fun with it. That would be my suggestion. And I know that was a little rushed, but like I say, we're already going overtime, but we're having fun making maps and talking about stuff, so I wanted to stretch it out just a little bit and talk a little bit more about it. But I'm going to take a break. Here's what's going to happen. We're done writing for the day. I'm going to take a break, just like a 15-minute break. I'll be back probably on the hour or just a little bit after for my video game stream. I am presently working my way through Neverwinter Nights, so if you want to see me playing a nice old, what was that, late 90s, early 2000s D&D style video game, if you want to see me just goof around in that environment, not knowing what in the world I'm doing because I've never played that game before, then, check back in like 15-20 minutes, and I'll be there playing that. If you're just here for the writing stuff, though, then, hey, I'll be back on Thursday At least I intend to be back Thursday. The schedule, I'll have to look and see exactly what it is. The schedule for Thursday is going to be a little different. So normally my streams, I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I do my writing starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, and then gaming starting sometime around 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time Zone on those days. That's the standard schedule. Thursday's going to be a little different because I do have a work meeting. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering the timing right, the work meeting means that my writing stream will start a little bit later on Thursday. But I do intend to still write on Thursday. So if you want to see more writing, you can check back then. If you want more up-to-date details on how that schedule is going to change, if you want to be there for announcements, I do have a Discord server. You can find the link to that on my Twitch channel. If you get yourself on that Discord, I do my best to day of update what's happening with the stream, whether I will still be streaming or not, if the timing is going to be changed. That's a really good place for it. The other thing about the Discord server is if you want to talk more about different homebrew ideas, you want to bounce ideas off me, you want to just share cool things you're working on, I have a lot of chat rooms within that Discord set up so that people can share stuff, and there's a lot of people will go on and they'll share their stuff. I do my best to try and check that at least once a day. I'm not always great about that. I got a lot of stuff on my plate. I got my day job. I'm streaming. I coach kickboxing in the evenings, and then I also do my own kickbox training for Muay Thai. So I got a lot on my plate, but I do my best to try and get on there and see what you guys are up to, because you guys are very creative and you got all kinds of cool stuff. So the Discord server is there. Also, if you want to see some other stuff that I've worked on, you want to see some other things I've written, you want to see other games that I played, I do upload all of my VODs onto my YouTube channel. Again, you can find the link to that on my Twitch page, so feel free to check that out if you're for some reason itching to see more of my lovely face and hear more of my smooth voice. No one's buying it. If you want to see more stuff I've worked on, you can check out the YouTube channel. That's always there too. I try to get my VODs uploaded same day. So I think that's all the announcements that I have. I think that's everything. That's all the self-plugs and the announcements that I have. So, yeah, with that, I'll say thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. I appreciate you guys. This was a really good stream today. I had a lot of fun today. I have a lot of fun with it every day. I love streaming. This is so much fun. I love sitting here creating stuff just for the sake of creating it, and it's flattering to me that people are interested in what I'm working on and like to hear my thoughts on writing things. I'm quite flattered by that, and I have a lot of fun with this. So thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate each and every one of you. And yeah, so yeah, I'm going to take my break. Like I say, 15-20 minutes. I guess it'll be a little after the hour at this point in time. But like I say, 15-20 minutes, come back. I'll be gaming. I'd love for you to stop by, or if you're just here for the writing, I totally understand that too. And so hopefully I will see you on Thursday. Regardless of what you choose, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for stopping by. Take care of yourselves. And yeah, I'll be back in a little bit. So sit tight, and I will see you soon.